If anyone had told Megan Harper that she would be driving herself through North Harlow on a Friday night, in the middle of a rainstorm, she would have laughed, or maybe fired them. This was not something she did, not anymore. But here she was, behind the wheel of her company SUV, gripping the steering wheel tighter than she probably needed to. Watching raindrops slide across the windshield like tiny rivers looking for a way out. The GPS on her dashboard blinked, searching for signal. Searching. Then, signal lost. A small sigh escaped her lips. Of course. She glanced at her phone. No bars. Perfect. Her left hand tapped the wheel. A nervous rhythm. She hated losing control of anything. The irony wasn't lost on her. A CEO of a cybersecurity firm lost, literally. In a neighborhood she had only ever seen on the local news, usually under crime reports or gentrification debates. Her assistant had offered to reschedule the visit. Her driver, Victor, had called earlier, voice shaking, telling her his wife was rushed to the hospital. Megan told him, "Take care of family, I'll handle this." A simple visit to a community center TechX was funding. 10-minute walk, 20-minute chat, then back to her world of polished boardrooms and clean lines. She thought it was simple, but now, as street lights flickered above cracked sidewalks, she realized how little she understood about simplicity. The tires hummed against wet asphalt. Her hands tightened again as the road narrowed. Buildings pressed closer, neon signs buzzed half-lit. Convenience stores, pawn shops, a boarded-up diner with graffiti layered like scars. Her dashboard dinged. Low tire pressure. Rear left. Great. She slowed, scanned the street for a safe spot. There wasn't one. Nowhere felt safe. She pulled toward the curb anyway, hazard lights flashing weakly against the downpour. Her eyes caught movement. 3 figures under a broken awning across the street, smoking, watching. Their heads tilted just slightly, following her every move. Megan swallowed hard. This was not great. Not great at all. The GPS blinked again, searching. Still nothing. The sound came soft at first, like a whisper, then louder, a slow sinking hiss. Megan's dashboard blinked again. Low tire pressure. Rear left. She closed her eyes for half a second. Of course it had to be now. Her hands moved on instinct, shifting the gear, guiding the SUV toward the curb. The front tire bumped against something, maybe a piece of broken sidewalk, maybe her own bad luck. She let the engine idle. Fingers hovered over the steering wheel. Outside, rain kept falling. Steady. Relentless. The street ahead narrowed into shadow. The glow from a flickering streetlight barely reached the broken pavement. Her eyes drifted back to the figures under the awning. 3 of them, still there, still watching. One leaned against the wall, arms crossed, face half hidden by the hood of his jacket. The second shifted his weight from one foot to another. Slow, deliberate. The third took a step forward, just a little, just enough to make sure she noticed. Megan's chest tightened. Her hand reached for her phone again. Still no signal. Nothing. She glanced at the glove compartment, half expecting to find something useful, anything. But there was nothing. Just the faint smell of damp leather and her own breathing getting louder. One of the men flicked his cigarette into the street. Its small ember flared, then died in the puddle. His eyes never left her. Megan forced her gaze forward, pretended she didn't notice. But her hands were already shaking. One figure nudged the other, whispered something, then laughed. Not loud, not forced, just quiet enough to make the silence heavier. Her fingers fumbled for the door lock, checked it twice, maybe 3 times, as if that would matter, as if a locked door could hold back whatever this was turning into. From across the street, Ethan Williams sat behind the wheel of his old pickup, engine off. Headlights dimmed. His eyes tracked the scene like a man reading a map he'd memorized years ago. One glance told him everything he needed to know. 3 men, not locals passing time, not harmless. Their posture said it loud. Slow shifts in weight, small angled movements. The kind predators make when they think no one's watching. Ethan's jaw clenched. His right hand rested near the gear shift, left thumb tapping slow against the steering wheel, counting, reading, calculating. Beside him in the passenger seat, Liam squirmed, chewing the edge of his hoodie sleeve. Oblivious. 8 years old, too young to know, too young to notice. Ethan's voice dropped low, calm, steady. Liam, lock the doors now. His son blinked, glanced at him, then saw the look on his father's face. No questions, no hesitation. His small hand reached for the lock button. Click. Ethan nodded. Stay down, no matter what, you hear me? Liam's teeny head bobbed, his eyes wide, fingers gripping his backpack like it was a life raft. Ethan exhaled, slow, controlled. His eyes never left the 3 men. He knew this dance. He'd seen it in places where things ended badly. Alleyways in Kandahar, dusty roads outside Fallujah, and now, somehow, right here. One of the men took another step toward the SUV. That was enough. Ethan opened his door, quiet, deliberate. Rain hit his jacket, soaked the fabric in seconds. His boots met the pavement with that familiar weight. Solid, grounded. Shoulders squared, hands relaxed but ready. The part of him that once belonged to the military. The part he kept buried and surfaced without asking permission. He didn't bother calling out, didn't announce himself. He simply started walking, straight towards them. Ethan crossed the street without rushing, without slowing either. His steps measured. His boots splashed through shallow puddles, the kind of walk that made people look twice. Not because it was loud, but because it was deliberate. The three men noticed him halfway across. One nudged the other. The tallest one, lean frame, hood half down, tilted his head. His eyes narrowed. The smallest shift in his stance. Not fear, not yet, just recalculating. Ethan's voice came low, flat. No threat, no invitation, gentle like a warning dressed in calm. I think the lady doesn't need your attention tonight. The man with the cigarette let out a small laugh. Short, dry, you lost or something, old man? His friend chuckled, not quite sure whether to be amused or annoyed. Ethan stopped, 5 feet away, close enough for his voice to carry without effort, far enough to not be cornered. His hands rested at his sides, fingers loose, but his shoulders shifted, just slightly. It was the kind of shift someone trained would recognize. A reset of balance, a readiness that never left. The leader's grin faded, just a little. Nah, man, this ain't your business. Walk away. Ethan's gaze never left his. I could. He paused, let the words hang there. Soft, steady. But then, I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. His head tilted, barely noticeable. So how about this? You turn around, take your friends, and go. His voice never rose, never cracked. It wasn't a threat, it wasn't a bluff, it was simply inevitable. The man glanced at his buddies, did the math, and for a split second, considered. But then, pride did what pride always does. The leader stepped forward, squared his shoulders, hands balling into fists. Wrong move. Ethan's eyes didn't change, his body didn't flinch. He'd seen this play before, and he already knew exactly how it ended. The first one lunged, fast, sloppy, a rookie mistake. His fist came wide, telegraphed, desperate to look tougher than he was. Ethan didn't move until the last half second. His left foot pivoted, weight shifted, right hand came up, palm open, catching the man's wrist midair, then twist, hard, sharp. A crack echoed under the rain. The man's knees buckled, his body folded like a chair. Face slammed into the sidewalk with a wet thud. One down, no time to admire it. The second came in from the side, smarter, aiming lower, trying to drive a shoulder into Ethan's ribs. Ethan stepped back just enough, letting the man's momentum overcommit. His elbow snapped down into the back of the man's neck. Precise, efficient. The man collapsed, gasping, fingers clawing at the pavement, legs refusing to follow orders. 2 down, Ethan's eyes flicked up. The third man, the youngest, the smallest, stared for a heartbeat, his mouth opened. But no words came out. only a ragged breath. His legs decided before his brain did. He turned, bolted into the shadows, feet slapping against wet concrete, disappearing into the night. Good choice. Ethan stood there, breathing steady, hands lowering, posture relaxing, but only a little. His eyes scanned the street, checked corners, checked angles, old habits, hard to kill behind him. The two men on the ground moaned, one clutching his arm, the other barely pushing himself onto his knees. Ethan didn't spare them a second glance. They were done, they just didn't know it yet. The rain kept falling, steady, relentless, like the world didn't notice or didn't care that something dangerous had just passed through. Ethan turned. His boots splashed against the puddles as he crossed back toward the SUV. His hands stayed low, open, visible. No sudden movements, no sharp edges. Megan sat frozen behind the wheel, her eyes wide, knuckles white against the steering wheel, like she wasn't sure if she should unlock the door or drive straight through him. Ethan stopped, a few feet away, far enough not to scare her more, close enough to be heard without shouting. His voice came steady, calm, not a suggestion, not a command, somewhere in between. You shouldn't stay here. His head tilted, motioning back toward the two men still groaning on the ground. Or wait for them to get friends. He nodded toward his truck across the street. My rig's there, it's safe, my kid's inside. Megan blinked, processing. A dozen instincts fighting each other. Pride, fear, logic. Her hand hovered near the lock button, flicked, then hesitated. She looked at him, really looked. The soaked jacket, the squared shoulders, the eyes. Not sharp, not cruel, just steady, familiar, in a way she couldn't explain. You have a child? Her voice cracked more than she expected. Ethan nodded. Yeah, 8, safe, but this street, not for long. Decision time. Megan exhaled. Long, slow. Her fingers unlocked the door. Click. She opened it, stepped out, heels sinking into the muddy asphalt, cursed under her breath. Ethan half smiled, practical, grounded, even in the worst moments. This way. He walked, didn't wait to see if she followed, just assumed she would, assumed right. The rain softened, just barely, and as two strangers, plus one silent boy waiting, slipped quietly out of a situation that could have gone a whole lot worse. The bell over the door chimed, soft, tired, the kind of sound that didn't bother competing with the rain outside. Ethan stepped in first, boots heavy, jacket dripping onto the worn tile floor. Megan followed, heels clicking, then slipping slightly, then clicking again. Liam trailed behind, hugging his backpack tight, his eyes scanning the room like a small animal deciding whether this place was safe. The diner smelled of old coffee, fried something, and a hint of cinnamon from a pie that probably sat in the case too long. It wasn't fancy. Booths with cracked vinyl, a jukebox in the corner, half lit, stuck on some forgotten country song. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting a strange comfort. Warm, but not welcoming. Familiar, but not home. A waitress looked up from behind the counter. Mid-50s, tired eyes, no judgment in her face, just recognition. The kind that understood late nights and bad weather, and maybe bad luck. She nodded, motioned toward an open booth near the window. Sit anywhere you like, her voice flat, routine. Like this wasn't the strangest thing to happen tonight. Ethan led the way, slid into one side of the booth. Liam climbed in beside him. Megan hesitated. Just a second, then took the opposite seat. She pulled her damp coat tighter, glanced around, eyes tracing water stains on the ceiling, flickering neon outside. The faint hum of a broken refrigerator outside. The storm pressed against the windows, but in here, it felt quieter. Not safe exactly, but quieter. A pause, a breath, a space between what just happened and whatever came next. The waitress approached. "Coffee?" she asked. No smile, no frown, just a question. Ethan nodded. Megan, after a beat, nodded too. Liam shook his head. "Water," he whispered, his voice barely there. The waitress scribbled, walked away. Silence lingered, but it wasn't uncomfortable. Not yet. The coffee arrived, poured without ceremony, into chipped white mugs that had probably been here longer than anyone in the room. Megan wrapped her hands around hers, not because it was good, but because it was hot. For a while, nobody spoke. The rain kept filling the silence. Ethan stirred his coffee once, twice, then let the spoon rest against the side of the cup. His eyes drifted, not to Megan, not to Liam, but somewhere just over Megan's shoulder, out the window, watching the street like it still mattered. Megan cleared her throat, twice, then finally broke the quiet. "I don't usually drive," she said, more to herself than anyone else. Her fingers traced the rim of the cup. "My driver, Victor, called out tonight. His wife went into labor early, complications. I told him, go, be with her. I'd handle it." Her mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, not quite regret. Thought it was just a quick visit to the community center. Meet the program director, shake some hands, make a donation, in and out. Her eyes dropped, watching a bead of coffee slide down the side of the mug. I guess, I thought, everything could be scheduled, managed, controlled. She laughed. Once, dry, small, brittle. And here we are, Ethan's gaze didn't shift. He listened, but his body stayed half-turned, never fully facing her. A habit, or maybe a choice. Liam swung his legs under the table, quietly, watching them both. For a moment, the only sound was the scrape of wind against the windows. The buzz of the broken jukebox. Ethan finally spoke, voice low, almost thoughtful. Life, he said, has a funny way of ignoring our schedules. Megan looked up. Their eyes met for the first real time since all this started. Her lips parted, like maybe she had something to say, or maybe she didn't. Either way, it hung there, heavy, unfinished. The waitress passed by, topped off their coffees, said nothing. The storm outside softened, but neither of them noticed. Ethan shifted, leaned back slightly, fingers wrapping around his coffee mug. His gaze softened, but only a little. Megan exhaled, half a sigh, half a reset. She glanced at Liam, then back to Ethan. So, she started, what do you do? His thumb tapped the handle, once, twice. Fix things, he said. Simple, matter-of-fact, electrical, plumbing. Whatever's broken, I figure it out. She nodded, waiting, expecting more. It didn't come. No company name, no title, no small talk filler. Just fix things. She tilted her head, studying him. You look like you've done more than that. Her voice stayed light, but the question was real. Ethan's eyes flicked toward the corner of the diner. A small, dust-covered radio sat on a shelf, shoved between stacks of faded menus and a jar full of pens that probably didn't work. The radio's power light was dead, antenna bent, buttons worn smooth, silent, forgotten. His gaze lingered there, longer than necessary, used to. He said finally, voice quieter now. Worked for the government a long time ago, did some stuff, then didn't. Fix things then, fix things now. Megan traced her finger along the rim of her cup. Her eyes followed his, landed on the radio. Funny, she said. That thing's still here. Even though it doesn't work, Ethan's lips twitched. Almost, but not quite, a smile. Some things stick around. Broken or not, Liam shifted, pulled a crayon from his backpack, started drawing on a napkin. Neither adult noticed. Not really. The storm outside was fading, but inside, something different was settling. Not comfort, not yet, but something close, something that didn't have a name but felt familiar. The drive back was mostly quiet, the kind of quiet that felt earned, not awkward. Headlights cut through mist and leftover rain, the city shifting from broken sidewalks to cleaner lines, smoother roads, polished glass. Megan sat in the passenger seat, hands folded, eyes watching the buildings change, watching how fast the city forgets its edges. Liam had dozed off in the back, head tilted, mouth half open, crayon still clutched in one hand. Ethan drove like he did everything else, steady. No rush, no wasted movement as they pulled up in front of a sleek steel and glass building. Megan reached into her coat, pulled out a business card. She held it out, halfway between casual and formal. "In case," she said, "you ever need anything, or I don't know, if fixing things ever includes digital ones." Ethan took it, slow, fingers brushing hers for just a second longer than necessary. His eyes dropped to the card. TechX Solutions, clean white logo, sharp edges, bold blue letters. His thumb traced the print. Something flickered behind his eyes, small, fast, gone before Megan could name it. His face stayed neutral, maybe a shade tighter around the jaw. "Thanks," he said, slipping it into his jacket pocket like it weighed more than it should. Megan opened the door, paused, then glanced back. Seriously, she added, "Thanks. For earlier. For everything." Ethan nodded. "No problem." His voice stayed level, practiced, like someone who had learned a long time ago not to let much show. Megan stepped out, closed the door. The sound echoed sharper than it should as she walked toward the lobby. Ethan's fingers brushed his jacket pocket again, feeling the card, the weight of something old, something unfinished, stirring just beneath the surface. The house was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that only comes after rain, after long nights, after pretending everything is fine. Liam had gone straight to bed. No stories tonight, no questions, just the kind of exhaustion small bodies feel when their world gets tilted, even for a little while. Ethan stood in the kitchen, jacket still on, hands resting on the worn counter. His eyes didn't move, but his fingers did, slowly, automatically, reaching for the drawer beneath the sink, the one he didn't open often, the one that held things he didn't like remembering. The drawer stuck for half a second, then gave way. Inside, a folder, manila, creased at the corners, a coffee stain on the edge. He pulled it out, laid it on the table, stared at it like it might change if he waited long enough. It didn't. He flipped it open. A resume, neat, precise, the kind written late at night after too many edits. Certifications, security architecture, encryption protocols. 20 years of experience boiled down to bullet points. Attached to it, a letter, formal, cold. "Thank you for your interest in TechX Solutions. After careful consideration, we regret to inform you." Ethan's jaw tightened. His fingers traced the red stamp at the bottom. "Application denied." Handwritten in the margin. Small, almost apologetic. A note, single parent, limited availability, not a fit. He closed his eyes, not because it surprised him, it didn't, but because somehow it still stung. Not the rejection, he'd had plenty, but the reminder that sometimes being a good father meant being seen as a bad employee. His hand drifted to his jacket pocket, pulled out Megan's card. Same logo, same sharp lines. The circle closed, whether he liked it or not. For a long moment, he just sat there, thumb brushing the edge of that card. The radio on the shelf behind him still dark, still silent, like a heartbeat that forgot how to start again. Ethan pushed the folder aside, let it sit there, half open, like it might close itself if ignored long enough. His eyes drifted toward the corner shelf. The old radio sat there, same as always. Dust collected along the edges, antenna still bent. The power dial faded from years of use, or maybe years of being forgotten. He stood, crossed the room, slow, like his body wasn't entirely sure this was a good idea. His fingers hovered over the dial, then turned it. A small click. Nothing. Static. Maybe. For half a second. Then silence. No hum. No signal. Just quiet. He fiddled with the volume knob, tapped the side twice. Nothing. It shouldn't surprise him. The radio hadn't worked in years. He told himself, one day, he'd fix it, like so many things. But life had a way of making some repairs feel less urgent, or maybe less possible. His hand stayed on the dial, just resting there, like maybe, if he held it long enough, it would come back to life. His eyes stayed on the machine, but they weren't seeing it. Not really. Not just the radio, but everything it stood for. Things that broke. Things left unfixed. Things abandoned because sometimes that was easier than admitting you couldn't fix them. A sigh escaped, low, unplanned. His thumb rubbed along the worn plastic. Then, after a long, still moment, he clicked the dial back off. The silence that followed felt heavier than the one before. He didn't move for a while, just stood there, hand on something broken, wondering if maybe the thing that needed fixing wasn't the radio at all. The headline hit just after sunrise. Not a whisper, not a rumor, a full-blown explosion. Data breach at TechX Solutions, customer records compromised, millions at risk. The words scrolled across the financial networks, slid into inboxes, flooded social feeds faster than anyone could control. On her kitchen counter, Megan stood frozen, staring at her tablet, coffee growing cold in her hand. Her thumb scrolled, even though her eyes didn't need to. She'd read it twice, 3 times, and still, it didn't change. Anonymous sources confirm critical vulnerabilities in TechX's encryption system. Multiple client records exposed, financial data, personal information, trusted security, no longer trustworthy. Her jaw tightened. Her heartbeat did something she hadn't felt in years. Fast, uneven, wrong. Her phone started vibrating. Then again and again. Board members, legal, public relations, investors, her inbox flooded with subject lines that all screamed the same thing. Fix this now across town. Stock tickers updated in real time. A red waterfall. TechX down 12%, 15, 18 algorithms triggered automatic sells. Financial blogs churned out analysis like vultures circling fresh roadkill. Is this the end of TechX? Another security giant falls. The words stung, not because they were wrong, but because of how fast they spread, how fast trust evaporated. Megan dropped the tablet onto the counter, ran a hand through her hair, fingers tangling halfway. This wasn't possible. It couldn't be. Their systems were airtight, their protocols layered 10 deep. She knew every line of defense. She signed off on them herself, unless her chest tightened, unless it wasn't a breach from the outside. Her hands moved on muscle memory, grabbing her laptop, dialing into the emergency systems, fingers flying, searching logs, server access, timestamps. But part of her already knew. Deep down, under the panic, under the scramble, a whisper was forming. This wasn't an accident. This was sabotage. And someone inside, had made sure the world would find out at the worst possible moment. The conference room felt colder than it should, not because of the air conditioning, but because of the silence, the tension. The weight pressing against every word left unsaid. Megan sat at the head of the table, shoulders squared, jaw set, scanning faces, legal, finance, communications, and Jackson, Chief Operating Officer. Smooth, polished, always just a little too composed. He leaned back, hands folded neatly, watching, waiting, like a man who already knew how this meeting would end. Megan broke the silence first. "This is targeted," she said. "Not a random breach, not external. Someone knew exactly where to hit." Jackson gave a small, measured nod, lips pressed into something that could almost pass for sympathy. "That's one theory," he said. "But the board's concern right now isn't how it happened. It's what we do next." His fingers tapped against the table, a slow, deliberate rhythm. Damage control. Reassure investors, contain the narrative. His gaze flicked toward the head of PR, then legal, then back to Megan. And, frankly, the board's wondering if part of that narrative involves reassessing leadership. The sentence hung there, heavy, sharp. Megan's eyes narrowed. "Excuse me?" Jackson raised a hand, calm, Smooth, no accusations, of course, just perception. We need the market to see decisive action, stability, accountability. His smile didn't reach his eyes. If that means stepping in, temporarily, to stabilize things, well, it's an option. Megan's fingers tightened around her coffee cup, knuckles whitening, but she didn't speak. Not yet. Not until she was sure which part of her wanted to respond. The CEO, the strategist, or the woman who'd just realized someone wasn't here to fix the fire, someone was pouring gasoline. The breaker box hummed, low, steady. The kind of sound Ethan could read like a second language. Wires, currents, load balance, problems waiting to happen. He crouched, flashlight gripped between his teeth, hands moving through bundles of tangled cables that looked, frankly, like someone's bad idea of a shortcut. The job was supposed to be simple, a faulty circuit at a small co-working space, a blown fuse, maybe two, nothing more. At least, that's what the owner thought when they called him. But as Ethan traced the lines, fingers brushing past junction points, something caught his eye. A server rack, not part of the original layout, tucked into a corner behind the utility closet. Quiet, subtle, running on its own backup power. Strange, but not unheard of. What wasn't normal was the secondary splitter feeding power to it. Sloppy work. Rushed. Ethan stood, pulled the flashlight from his mouth, walked over, peered behind the panel, his brows furrowed. A network switch, a relay, and something else. His fingers grazed the edge of a portable data bridge. Not a company install. Definitely not regulation. His gut tightened. He traced the cables back, saw the access node, an uplink disguised as routine infrastructure. Somebody had piggybacked an unauthorized line directly into an internal network, and not just any network. Ethan knew enough to recognize encryption handshakes when he saw them. Deep level, corporate grade. His thumb brushed the faint label near the switch. Tech X. His pulse didn't spike. Didn't need to. His brain had already shifted. A different kind of wiring. Old instincts. Old training. Quiet. Measured. Efficient. He didn't touch anything else. Not yet. But he pulled out his phone, snapped 3 pictures, then a 4th. His jaw set. Whatever this was, it wasn't just bad wiring. Someone had built a back door and someone else, probably, didn't know it was still open. The knock came sharp, precise, 3 taps, not rushed, not hesitant. Megan opened her office door, expecting anyone but him. Ethan stood there, jacket damp from the drizzle, expression unreadable. Hands empty, but not relaxed. For a split second, she almost forgot how to breathe. He stepped inside without waiting for permission, closed the door behind him, locked it. His eyes swept the room, windows, vents, standard military sweep. Megan blinked. What? Ethan cut her off, quiet, focused. I found something. He pulled his phone from his pocket, thumbed through the gallery, turned it toward her. Photos, server racks, cables, hidden nodes, each image tighter, sharper, her eyes narrowed. Where is this? Co-working space off 5th, supposed to be a simple job, found this behind a breaker panel. She scrolled, frowned. Someone's running a mirrored uplink, disguised as utility routing. Direct line into... Her voice trailed as realization hit. Into our network. Ethan nodded once. Calm, efficient, not panicked, not angry, just processing. This isn't amateur work. Whoever did this knows what they're doing. Knew exactly where to splice, exactly how to bury it. Megan paced, fingers tangling in her hair, her mind spun, faster than her lips could keep up. This is how they did it, how they planted the breach story, the data leaks. Jackson. Her voice caught. You think he's behind it? Ethan's gaze didn't shift. I don't guess. I observe. His thumb flipped to the last image. A timestamp, cross-referenced with the moment the first leak hit the media. Her hands trembled. So, what do we do? Ethan crossed his arms, voice flat, unemotional, like reading a mission brief. First, you stop reacting. You start controlling. Second, you pull your logs. Look for access trails, digital fingerprints. Third, you prepare for pushback. If someone went this far, they won't stop just because we found it. Megan exhaled, sharp, loud. Her eyes locked onto his. And you? Ethan leaned in. You already know the answer to that. The engine idled low. Too low. The kind of rumble designed to blend into the night, but not quiet enough for someone trained to miss it. Ethan stood in his kitchen. Lights off. One hand pulling the curtain back just an inch. Outside. A black SUV. Windows tinted. Parked across the street. No plates. No movement. But he knew better. People were in there. Watching. Waiting. His jaw tightened. Shoulders squared. He counted the shadows. 2, maybe 3. Hard to say without infrared. Didn't matter. His hands moved automatically. Opened the hall closet. Pulled out the small metal case that hadn't been touched in years, but never gathered dust. The latches snapped open. Inside, a tactical flashlight. Heavy, solid, high-lumen, a multi-tool, and buried beneath. Muscle memory found the item before his brain even finished the thought. A folded field knife. Not a weapon. A tool, but tools in the right hands mattered. Ethan slid the knife into his jacket, clipped the flashlight to his belt. His boots met the hardwood floor with that familiar, quiet, deliberate weight. He moved through the house like a man who'd done this before because he had. checked Liam's room. The boy slept, oblivious, blanket curled under his chin, safe for now. Ethan whispered, "Stay asleep, kiddo." Then he stepped onto the porch. Rain had stopped, but the air was heavy, like it hadn't decided if it was done yet. The porch light flickered, on, off, then on again. His eyes locked onto the SUV, didn't blink. His feet descended the steps, slow, measured. The shift was subtle, but real. Shoulders back, weight balanced, chin lowered just enough to protect the neck. Breathing slowed, focus narrowed. The civilian was gone. The father was quiet. The soldier was awake. The porch light flickered once, then steadied. A small circle of amber glow against the dark, enough to see shapes, enough to make shadows look sharper, heavier. Ethan stepped off the last stair, boots hitting wet gravel. The SUV door cracked open, just a sliver, a figure slid out. Slow, testing. Not aggressive yet, not casual either. Another followed, broader, shoulders tight. Both scanned the street, then zeroed in on Ethan. For a beat, no one moved. No words, no bluff, just the kind of silence where decisions get made. Wrong ones. The taller one stepped forward, his hand dipped. Not quite into a pocket, not quite behind his back. Ethan's eyes clocked it. His stance shifted. Half an inch. Weight onto the balls of his feet, a slow inhale. The porch light caught the briefest flash of metal. Then motion, fast, sharp, efficient. The camera didn't follow the fight. It didn't need to. The sound told enough. A grunt, the dull crack of someone hitting the side panel of the SUV. A splash as another hit the puddle by the curb. Silence. Then a groan. The frame held on the porch light, flickering, buzzing. The bulb swaying slightly, like something had brushed it hard. When the lens pulled back, both men were down. One curled on his side, coughing, clutching an arm bent wrong. The other flat on his back, blinking against rain that wasn't falling anymore. Like maybe. He was surprised the sky wasn't helping. Ethan stood over them, breathing steady, shoulders relaxed again, hands open, not a mark on him, not a wrinkle out of place. His voice came low, cold. "Tell whoever sent you, I'm not backing off." He stepped around them, calm, like taking out the trash. Porch light still burned behind him. Steady, unwavering. The conference hall buzzed, but not with conversation, with tension, the kind of tension that sits under the skin. Electric waiting. Rows of shareholders shifted in their seats, scrolling through phones, whispering in low, clipped voices. Eyes darted toward the stage, toward each other, toward the clock. Megan stood behind the curtain. One hand gripped a small, black USB drive. Tiny, insignificant by weight, heavy by consequence. Her other hand tightened around a folder. Not for show, for focus, for something real to hold on to. Jackson sat in the front row, perfect posture, tailored suit, face unreadable, but his fingers tapped against his knee, rapid, controlled. Megan stepped forward out of the shadows onto the stage. Her heels echoed sharper than they should. Microphones picked up everything, the shuffle of paper, the soft inhale before speaking. "Good morning." Her voice held clear, firm behind her. The screen flickered awake, white, blank, waiting. She didn't look at it yet, didn't rush. "Thank you all for being here, under less than ideal circumstances." Her gaze scanned the room. Some stared back, some looked away, some were already calculating exits. She lifted the USB, small gesture, quiet. "On this drive is everything you need to understand what happened, what really happened." A pause. Not dramatic, just necessary. Because this isn't about a breach, it's about trust, about who broke it and why. Her fingers slid the drive into the port. The screen behind her filled with code. Logs, timestamps, emails, one by one. They unfolded. Conversations, documents, names. The room shifted. Chairs creaked. Someone in the third row cursed under their breath. Megan's hands stayed steady. Her voice dropped. The breach wasn't external. It was planted from inside, and the person responsible made sure to profit, while the rest of us scrambled to clean up the mess. The screen flashed one final file, a transaction record, 6 figures wired the day before the story leaked. The room didn't breathe. The screen shifted. No music, no transitions, just raw data. Cold, clinical, unforgiving. First, an email thread, subject line simple, update on the plan, Jackson's name stamped right there, not buried, not subtle. The text scrolled automatically, dates, times, sent from a private address, not company issued. Words that felt like nails driven into wood. "Push the story by Thursday. I'll handle the internal logs." The board needs to see numbers, not questions. A few gasps echoed through the hall. Hands flew to mouths. One shareholder whispered, loud enough for 3 rows to hear, "My God." The screen jumped. Next slide. A bank statement highlighted, circled. A transfer, 600,000 wired to an offshore account 24 hours before the breach went public. Megan didn't speak. She didn't need to. The numbers spoke louder than anything she could say. Another shift, server logs, access history, a login from Jackson's credentials. After midnight, 4 consecutive nights into systems he had no operational reason to access. The screen zoomed in. A line of code, obfuscated at first glance but stripped back, revealed a deliberate injection. A vulnerability placed, not found. Behind her, Megan could hear chairs shifting, papers rustling, the controlled chaos of panic dressed as professionalism. On the front row, Jackson's face drained, pale, tight. His hands stopped tapping, flat against his thighs now. His mouth opened, closed. No words came. Megan turned, slowly, to face the audience fully. Her voice was steady, low. "What you're seeing is not an accident, not a mistake. It was a choice made by someone who thought none of you would ever find out." The double doors at the back swung open, not rushed, not loud, just inevitable. Two officers stepped in, plain clothes, badges visible, purpose in every step, no confusion, no hesitation. They walked straight down the aisle, past stunned shareholders, past whispered gasps, past the sound of someone's phone clattering onto the floor. Jackson stood, too fast, too stiff, his chair scraped back, loud, jagged, his mouth opened. This is a mistake. His hands half raised, palms out, but not in surrender, in disbelief, in desperation. The officers didn't flinch. "Sir, you need to come with us." The lead officer's tone was flat, practiced, like someone ordering coffee, not making an arrest. Jackson shook his head. No, you don't understand. This is a misunderstanding." But the cuffs clicked anyway. Metal against skin, sharp, final. His eyes darted toward Megan, toward the board, toward anyone. Looking for a lifeline, finding none. The officers walked him out. His footsteps echoed, hollow, smaller than they should have been for a man who once believed he controlled the room. Silence filled the space behind him. Megan let the stillness hold, let it breathe, let it say what words couldn't. Then, somewhere, faint at first, a hum, soft, uneven, the sound of static, then music, low, warbled but real. The camera would follow it, panning past confused faces, past screens still glowing with evidence, landing on a small radio sitting in the back corner of the room. Its light, after years of being dark, flickered on. A song from nowhere, an old tune, broken, then clear. Cut to Ethan, standing in the back, watching everything unfold. His arms crossed, his jaw set, not smug, not proud, just steady, like a man who's seen enough of life to know. Sometimes, broken things still find a way to work again. The sun hung low, soft, golden, spilling across the brick walls of the newly restored community center. Fresh paint, new windows, clean lines where cracks used to be. A crowd gathered out front, families, kids, volunteers, some in suits, some in worn jackets, all sharing the same quiet sense of something different, something better. A ribbon stretched across the entrance. Megan stood by it, holding scissors, smiling, but not the kind of smile used for press releases. Something quieter, something earned. She glanced to her left. Ethan stood near a workbench set up for the kids, sleeves rolled, tool belt strapped. A small group of children gathered around him, eyes wide, hands eager. "All right," he said, holding up a screwdriver. "First rule, don't force it. You force it, you break it." He picked up a broken lamp, turned it over, showed them the wires, the screws, the pieces most people never bothered to see. "See this?" He pointed. "This isn't broken. It's just waiting for the right hands to put it back together." Liam sat front and center, grinning, already holding pliers like he was born with them. Around them, other stations buzzed, coding tutorials, circuit board demos, even a corner for soldering, supervised, careful, but real. The kind of learning you feel in your fingers, not just read on a screen. Megan stepped up to the mic, her voice softer than usual. When we started this, she said, pausing, we thought it was about technology, about building firewalls, about keeping bad things out. She glanced toward Ethan, but sometimes it's not about walls. It's about doors, about teaching people how to open them, how to fix them when they break. A ripple of quiet applause. No fanfare, no media circus, just people. Breathing a little easier, a little lighter. Behind the crowd, the old radio sat on a shelf, still playing, still humming. Static at the edges, but the music came through anyway, like maybe it always would, if someone just cared enough to keep it plugged in. The kitchen smelled like something warm, something simple, fresh bread, butter melting, maybe a hint of cinnamon, or maybe that was just memory filling in the gaps. Ethan sat at the table, sleeves rolled, hands steady, Liam beside him and swinging his legs, humming to whatever tune drifted from the old radio in the corner. Megan sat across, jacket off, hair loose, fingers wrapped around a chipped ceramic mug, half full, half forgotten. The radio played soft, a little static, a little melody, an old song no one remembered the name of, but everyone knew anyway. Outside, the porch light glowed, steady, warm, like a promise made without words. They weren't talking about anything important, not tonight, just little things. Liam's science project, a neighbor's stubborn dog, the way the heater rattled when it kicked on, like it was arguing with itself. Megan smiled, not big, not showy, just enough. Her fingers traced the rim of the mug, you know. She said, almost to herself, I never thought. A pause, a breath. I never thought something like this could feel like home. Ethan didn't say anything right away. His gaze drifted to the radio. The light on its dial flickered, held. Sometimes, he said, voice low. Things don't need to be perfect. They just need to work. Megan nodded, her eyes softer now, her hands steadier. Liam reached for another piece of bread, completely unaware of the weight those words carried. The porch light buzzed. A moth bumped against it. Rain threatened, but didn't come. Not yet. Inside, the quiet was full, not empty, full. The clock above the stove ticked. Soft, steady, the kind of sound you don't notice until everything else goes quiet. Dishes were mostly cleared, crumbs left behind, half a cup of coffee growing cold. The radio hummed in the corner, still fighting through bits of static, but the melody held. Outside, the porch light glowed against the dark, steady, constant. Megan stood, walked toward the back door. Her fingers grazed the frame. The wood was old but solid, the hinges polished. Someone had taken time to fix what needed fixing. She traced a spot near the handle, a crack once there, now patched, sanded, sealed. She glanced back, saw Ethan watching her. His hands rested on the table, fingers folded, calm, waiting. Liam leaned against his dad, head heavy, eyelids heavier. Megan smiled. Not the kind you use for meetings, not the kind for cameras. Something softer, something real. Her voice came, quieter than she expected. "You know," she said, almost whispering, "there are some things worth fixing." Ethan's head tilted, just slightly, but his eyes stayed steady. Didn't need words, didn't rush to fill the silence, just let it be. Megan's hand closed around the door handle, the metal cool, familiar. She pulled the door shut, the latch clicked. Clean, smooth, the kind of sound that says, "Something broken isn't broken anymore," from the corner. The radio played on, the light on its dial. Steady outside, the porch light stayed bright. Inside, the quiet wrapped around them, not empty, not heavy, just full. A pause, a breath, a door finally closed, but only because something else had opened.